Welcome to Learn Enough CSS and Layout to be Dangerous. I'm Michael Hartle, and I have a special bonus for you. We've got the co-author of this tutorial and Learn Enough co-founder, Lee Donahoe, to help out.
Hello all.
So this is a tutorial about cascading style sheets, which are the styling language of the World Wide Web, together with the idea of page layout, which is an often neglected topic. So the intended audience for this is people who are going through the Learn Enough introductory sequence. The prerequisites for this are just the preceding Learn Enough tutorials. That's starting with Learn Enough command line to be dangerous, and then going through text editor, Git, and HTML. But this tutorial is also good for people like me. If you have a background in web development already, if you've say gone through the Ruby on Rails tutorial or something equivalent, this is a great way to complement that developer skill set with the beginnings of design. So one of the things that came up while we were doing this is realizing that we couldn't just break it into little pieces and cover this as if we were reading a dictionary. So this is something a lot of people do. So Lee, when you got started with CSS and layout, like how did you approach it?
It was purely practical. So it was, I want to do a thing. How do I do that thing? And then chaining that experience with other experiences to create progressively more complicated layouts. And then looking at interesting sites, interesting experiments, interesting examples that show exactly how to build something that looks nice and functions well to deliver content. So it was never looking through a dictionary of CSS terms and reading, oh, to change a color, I use color this, or a border to do border this. It was, I want to do a thing and I have a vision in my head. Let's figure out how to do it.
Right, and so this is the kind of thing that I think a lot of tutorials out there take this more dictionary approach. So it's like trying to learn Spanish by reading the dictionary. I'd like to note something fun about this image. When one of the early editing passes, I was looking at it, and like I speak reasonably good Spanish. I was looking at it, and I said, well, it would be really hard to learn Spanish from this dictionary because if you look closely, it's actually not Spanish. Various people have had guesses. There's like a backwards accent on the E here. There's a cedilla on the C, so people have guessed maybe French or Portuguese, but this is actually Catalan. This is a little, we left it in as a little Easter egg for people to discover. But in any case, this is definitely not the way to learn CSS. You can't just go through this, this sort of micro approach. You have to take a holistic approach. And that's, I think, one of the things that distinguishes this tutorial from others. And in particular, we cover this idea of layout. So this is the kind of thing that I needed to learn about, this idea of putting everything together. So
And
these are
honestly, it's the most difficult part of actually creating web pages and creating web applications. You know, being able to change the size of an element or its color only gets you so far. Ultimately, you have to put everything together in a cohesive way, like an architect. And learning how to do that page layout and learning how best practices work to accomplish your goals is incredibly important and surprisingly not often well taught.
Yeah, and one of the things that we'll end up talking about later in this tutorial is how to use an industrial grade tool called a static site builder. This is the kind of thing that will let you actually deploy a real website to the live web. And that's another thing we'll be doing in this tutorial that's different from a lot of tutorials is we're going to show you how to actually have a website that you can put on the live web. It's a skill that you could then use to make websites for yourself, or you could take contracts, that sort of thing. And it's just, as far as I know, this is the shortest path to a marketable web skill. Starting with the command line and then going to the end of this tutorial, it's actually the kind of thing that this is for real. This is not just a toy. By the way, static site builders are useful even if you already have web development skills. So, for example, if you already know something like Rails, you might not want the full overhead of a web development framework for something like a personal blog or a website for a business.
A static site generator is perfect for anything that you want to do online, whether it's, like Michael said, just giving information about a business or even validating your idea. Say you've got an idea for a new application and you want to tell people about it and collect emails or something like that. You don't want to build a whole web application that's going to take you weeks, and using a static site generator and having the skills to be able to rapidly deploy something with that is uh, it's knowledge worth having.
Right, and because of this integrated approach that we take, even if you've already studied CSS before, it's likely that learning enough CSS and layout to be dangerous will put everything together in a way that you haven't seen before. So let's get started.